Okay, so the first round of this season's NRL season has now concluded. Let's just go through the games in order. Now, obviously, last weekend 2 games were played in Vegas, and as I say, let's go through them in order. Let's start with the Canberra Raiders New Zealand Warriors. That was a 30-8 win for the Raiders. Now, I am a Raiders fan, and I'm going to try and hide my bias here, but I was very, very proud with the Raiders' performance. Very happy with the Raiders' performance. They look fitter than last year. They looked, very quick, mobile. They looked switched on. I think Tarpany, a little bit of discipline issues there, but very happy with the Raiders' performance. Not much was expected of the Raiders this season. Team in transition, a lot of squad turnover, very young team. They put out a statement win there. They did. That was a statement win that they're not going to be as bad as people expect them to be. They could be a surprise package this season. The Warriors side of things, very disappointed with them. They didn't look great in attack. They looked very clunky in attack. They look very passive defensively and very disorganised. And you have to look at some of the team selections that were made. With Tenny Zalesniak obviously injured in pre-season, late withdrawal, but Tuivasa-Sheck out on the wing is less impactful than, let's say, at centre or at fullback. So they need to look at how they organise their outside backs. Halves combination. Metcalf didn't have his best game, admittedly. Harris Tavita, again, didn't have his best game. Tavare Martin, I think, is going to be important, I think, with how this team operates. Could you use Harris Tavita more as a utility? I mean, they weren't great, and it was very clear and obvious there was only going to be one side to win this with how both teams played. The Raiders were dominant, and I think are going to have a much better season than people predict. The Penrith Panthers, Cronulla Sharks finished 28 points to 22. Solid first outing for Penrith of the season, considering they've lost Luai, they've lost Fisher Harris, and Taruva. They always seem to lose players every season, yet they continue to find a way to win. Generally, they can be slow starters to a season. They lost the opening match last season. This season, they win it. They beat Cronulla. It was a close game. It was a good game. Cronulla, I mean, they're close. So I'm not too worried about the Sharks, to be honest. If I'm being honest, I think they are close, and it's a long season. And Cronulla had flashes last season where they were one of the best sides. They are a top 4 side. It's just have they closed the gap enough to Penrith and Melbourne. The Panthers, solid first outing. Was it their best performance? No, they have played better games as a unit. But it was a solid first outing for Cleary without Luai as his permanent halves partner. It's going to be interesting to see who they settle on. Is it going to be Cole? Is it going to be Tuolangi? It's going to be very interesting who becomes his permanent halves partner. Will Schneider get some games in there? That's going to be interesting to see who they partner with Cleary long term. But the system still works. They still are a tough team to beat. And it was a close game, which was good. It was good that we had a close game in Vegas because of the Raiders-Warriors blowout. It was a good advert for the game. The intensity was there. And the momentum swings were there as well. And the Panthers just have that, 4-5-peat, that they're trying to go for. Cronulla, they're getting close. And I think we'll see what happens at the end of the season. I think Nico Hines didn't have his best game, didn't have his worst game. Trindle took over more of the kicking and allowed Hines to do more running, which could be a good combo for them going forward. But every opposition is going to be different. I mean, on another day, Cronulla win that game. So that was a good, fun game. I have no issues with either side. I think both sides are going to have good seasons. The Sydney Roosters, Brisbane Broncos. Brisbane putting 50 on the Roosters. I mean, admittedly, the Roosters got 14 points in response, but 50 points put on them. There's a concern, obviously, with Victor Radley with that concussion coming out of that game. There was a lot of predictions the Broncos were going to be better than last season. Madge has definitely worked his magic. They look fitter. They looked more mentally tuned in because there were times when things went wobbly in games that they lost that mental aspect of the game. And they switched off. This Brisbane side looked ruthless this weekend. And the last side to concede 50 points on opening day went to get the wooden spoon, but we've had 2 teams concede 50 points. So I have concerns about the Roosters, I really do. When I did the previews for the season, I thought the Roosters may slip back. They've lost a lot of talent in the off-season. and it was clear and obvious that they were missing missing that talent that's moved on. The forward pack was dominated, the back line didn't look as slick, and the Broncos, they've responded to Michael Maguire's coaching, and yes, having Ben Hunt there in the halves, I think, does help. We'll see how Ezra Mam slots back into the side, if he can actually get back into the side, because Hunt and Reynolds might be the combination they go with this season. If it continues to get them wins like they had at the weekend, I have concerns about the Roosters this season. Not only do I think they're going to slip back, I think they really could struggle this season. That was a really poor performance at home, opening round of the season. West Tigers, Newcastle Knights. Haven't actually watched this game, but looking at the scoreline, half time the Tigers were 8-0 up, and they'd blown a win from a winning position. They've blown that. Newcastle scrap back to come from behind. I think the Tigers are going to be a lot better than last season. I think they've got good players that have come in, like Luai. I think that adds a lot. They've got some players out at the moment through injury. Coruscant's yet to come back to full fitness. I think the Tigers are going to have a better season. Will they make the top 8? Probably not. The Knights, they're such an unpredictable Jekyll and Hyde team. They can be good and then bad and then inconsistent. I think getting a win first up is important, and getting a scrappy win, ironically, is actually a good sign of a good side. Winning when not playing well. But the Knights, they are just one of those enigma teams where what are we going to get? They promise much and then they don't deliver what they promise. I think the Knights will be around the bottom of the 8, top of the teams competing, around mid-table. But we'll see, because the Knights, if they get on a losing streak or lose some confidence or have some injuries, it's one of them. I think the Tigers are going to be better. I don't think the Tigers will make the top 8, but I think they're going to be better. The Knights... both these sides, I think, could be around mid-table come the end of the season. But the Tigers just want improvement when it comes to their overall finishing position in the ladder. The Knights, they want to be consistently in the top 8. They're going to have to play better if they want to get consistently to the top 8. The Rabbitohs, Dolphins, the Wayne Bennett derby. Wayne Bennett wins again against a former club. Obviously, the weather's impacted this match. It was meant to be played up in Redcliffe. It's been obviously moved down because of Cyclone Alfred. Or Albert, is it Alfred? The weather's obviously impacted this. This would have been a Bunnies away game. It's been switched to a home game. And Wayne Bennett's time in charge of the Bunnies gets off to a win, which is important. When you've got a close game like this is good. We've had a couple of close games over the weekend, which is good. It's a good sign for the league being very competitive. The Bunnies won a massive response from last year. Now, is Wayne Bennett going to fix all the problems? We shall see. There was a lot of issues that came out of last season. The Dolphins, this is now season number 3. A lot more is expected of them to start progressing. This is the post-Wayne Bennett era. And we've seen with teams, when Bennett moves on, that it doesn't always work out. And there's like that Bennett hangover, as they call it. So we'll see how the Dolphins respond to this first round defeat. The Bunnies, they've got to build. Even if it's small wins like this, they have to build something. They have to be better than last year. There are still players out injured. It's going to be interesting to see when players like Latrell Mitchell, when they come back into the side, where Bennett decides to play them, because Latrell Mitchell is not a fullback. Let's be honest. He's a centre. He's a left centre at his best. He's not a fullback. He's not fit enough, long enough to be fullback. It's a demanding position. And I've been saying that for years. He was a centre at the Roosters, and he won 2 premierships. So it's going to be interesting to see where Wayne Bennett positions Latrell Mitchell when he comes back. But they win without Latrell Mitchell in the side. Not the most dominant win, but they win. The Dragons, Bulldogs. I mean, the Bulldogs looked good, and then they tired in the second half. The heat has had an impact this weekend on a lot of games. And we'll get to the Melbourne Storm game, because it was 35 degrees in Melbourne today. The Bulldogs, they look good in attack, but they did start to tire. The Dragons fought back. The Dragons did fight back. This should be one of the games that goes to Vegas next year, a Dragons-Bulldogs clash. That would be fantastic. There would be the amount of fans that would go to Vegas for that. It was a spicy encounter. These are two sides that don't like each other. There was a bit of needle in the game. But Canterbury looked good going forward. Their defence was one of the best defences last year. I think it was the second best overall. But their attack, while it was still in the positive, and they had a positive points differential, they weren't really scoring more than they conceded. They've worked on their attack. It's looking a bit more threatening this year. but they didn't pace themselves at the week. I mean, yesterday they did not pace themselves. The heat took it out of them. And the Dragons, I think the Dragons are going to be better than people expect as well. The Dragons narrowly missed out on the top 8. This was a very close encounter. There was momentum swings. These are two sides that don't like each other. It was a fun game. I have no concerns about the Dragons or the Bulldogs. They're both going to be very, very competitive this season. The Sea Eagles Cowboys. This was a bit of a blowout. 42 points to 12 to the Sea Eagles. Okay, yeah, the Cowboys get a couple of tries late on, but they didn't look great at all. I have worries about the Cowboys this season. Really do. Much like the Warriors and the Roosters, the Cowboys didn't look great in this game. I think they're going to struggle this season. I really do. I think they're going to struggle this season. The Sea Eagles look hungry. They look much better than they did opening round last year in Vegas. They look hungry. The Travojevic brothers, all three of them look fit and firing, which is scary. Cherry Evans is defying the ageing process. He had a very, very good game, controlling the play. Luke Brooks had a good game, which is good to see in his second season at the Sea Eagles. They could be another dark horse for a premiership. I think if a team is going to challenge, or the Storm and the Panthers, Broncos could have a good season if they carry on playing the way they did, and the Sea Eagles could as well. They looked really, they looked scary in attack. The way their attack worked, they were ripping the Cowboys to pieces. And yes, could the Heat have had a part to play? Potentially. But with the Cowboys based up in Townsville, you thought they would have been pretty comfortable with the temperatures and the humidity. But the Cowboys didn't look great. I have concerns about the Cowboys. I really do. And I have concerns for Todd Payton's side. Right, now the Melbourne Storm Parramatta Eels. Yes. 46-6 at half-time to Melbourne. I know Melbourne have got a fantastic record in opening round fixtures, but this was ridiculous. The game was done after about 15-20 minutes. Parramatta were just all at sea. I know they're missing Moses and a few other players out injured, but that was just it was very one-sided. It was only in the second half where the temperature and the humidity's taken a massive impact, and Melbourne didn't necessarily pace themselves the best. That Parramatta had a bit of fight in them in the second half, but that first half they were dreadful, absolutely dreadful. Melbourne just cut them to ribbons. That was a statement win by the Storm. They are a lot of people's favourites this season for the minor premiership and the grand final. They have the bye next week. Thankfully, no major injury concerns, I don't think, for the Storm. The Parramatta, I mean, they're missing Mitch Moses for the next 5 rounds after this one, minimum. That's how long the Eels have stated that he's out for. There's a minimum of 6 weeks. Real concerns for the Eels. There's a few sides that I'm really concerned about already after round 1. I think we'll have a better feel of where teams are at after about round 5, but the Eels are one of the teams I think are going to struggle this season. They were put to the sword. And it's not as if they've got a bad team. Yeah, okay, they didn't have a great season last year, but that was not a good performance, and I have some concerns about the Eels. They look lost without Moses in the halves, and they just defensively they were all over the place. So I know there's a new coach and new systems, but that is very, very worrying. Very worrying. The Gold Coast Titans, they will start their season off next week. They had the bye this week. So there we go. There's a review of round 1. As I say, I have some concerns about the Roosters, the Cowboys and the Eels, especially, and the Warriors as well. These are 4 sides that had some very heavy defeats. The other games were a lot closer and a lot more, balanced, if you can call it that. But there's 4 sides already that are showing warning signs that this could be a long season for them. And I think sides that will improve, like the Tigers, will improve. But as I say, I have concerns about the Roosters, Warriors, Eels and Cowboys. It's going to be very interesting to see how they respond next weekend to those heavy defeats. And if they lose again, if those 4 sides lose again, then we can go, right, okay, we definitely have, here's our bottom 4, bottom 5 teams already, and we can have an idea of where they're trending. But some really concerning performances there, and some very scary performances, like Penrith. They were given a proper test and they came out of that. Canberra, I think, even though I am a Raiders fan, it was a very positive win, and the way they played, they look fit. They look quick. Then there's commitment and scramble. There's high energy about the side. Brisbane looks scary, but is that a one-off, or is this going to be a season where they bounce back from a disappointing couple of seasons? The Bulldogs are starting to have. They look like they've got that gnarl and fight about them. They've just got to pace themselves a little bit better, and a bit more better game management. They look good. I think that's not a one-season wonder from last year. I think they're building for something. The Sea Eagles look scary as well. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below. Are there any surprises out of the weekend? Well, the 2 weekends, if you include the Vegas games. Are there any surprises there? Are there any shocks there? Or is this what people expected? But for me for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.